Well, the game's going along rather quickly, but now we still need to be able to tell if the user is catching an apple or if the user is catching a bomb, because right now when they're catching the bomb, we're just getting points for that. So let's go ahead and add in an explosion. And I have a sprite sheet over here. You'll find it in the game kit. Images main, EXP. Nice little explosion. And each cell is 65 pixels wide by 65 pixels high. So we just need to load that in the same way that we did the apple. And we'll give it the key of EXP for explosion. The path is images main exp.png. And as I said, it's a 65 by 65 cell. Then we'll just make a little function here called make explosion. And all we need to do is make a sprite of the explosion. Var explosion equals game add sprite. And let's just put it in the center of the screen for the moment. And that key of EXP. Then we need to define an animation for that explosion so we can go through the cells. And the way we do that is explosion. And each sprite has an animations property. And to that we can add an animation. And we give it a key, and we'll just call it boom. And then we need an array of the frames that we're going to use, because you might have a sprite sheet where you're only going to use 2 or 3 of the cells rather than all of them. So we need 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all the way to 16. But since we're starting with 0, we'll go up to number 15. And the next parameter is the speed, the number of frames per second. Usually I like to set it at 12, and the higher number that you get, the faster it will go. And then we need to know whether or not the animation is going to loop or not. And since this is an explosion, we don't want that. If you had a sprite that was a runner, you would want to have that loop. And then the final step is to play the explosion. Explosion play, boom. And I'm just going to call it here so we can test that out. And there. See it again. I need to anchor that sprite though, so it is in the center. Explosion, anchor set, 0.5, 0.5. And the explosion's a little small, so I'm going to change the scale. So I'm just going to set the scale here so it's going to be twice as high. Explosion, scale, and we have to set a scale X and a scale Y, and we can do that by saying set, and scale X is 2, and then scale Y is 2. There, that's much better. And instead of putting it in the center of the screen, let's just put it at the basket coordinates. That's good. So that way when the bomb hits the basket will explode. Now one thing I want to do is tell when this animation is done. And if you assign a variable to the play like this, var my explosion equals explosion play boom, then you can add a listener to that variable. My explosion on complete, add this, boom, done, this. And I'm just going to log out something for right now. Console log, boom, done. Because what we're going to put here in a moment is the game over. And we want to make sure the explosion is done before it goes to the game over screen. And there it is in the console, boom, done. Now I don't want to call this right here, right at the beginning. That was just for testing. So we go down to where is hit equals true. That's where we're catching an apple and a bomb. So instead of calling it up there in the create function, we need to check here if the apple, that object here, is actually an apple or a bomb. Now normally we would do something like if apple frame is 1, then we would call that make explosion. The thing is, though, that apple is not a sprite, it is a class, and the actual sprite is inside the apple class. So what we can do is simply make a little function called getIsBomb, and if the image frame is 1, then we return true. Otherwise, we return false. So if apple get bomb is equal to true, then we make the explosion. And let's also play the sound effect up there. So I'll just copy this sound event here. And right at the top, and change that word to boom, because we loaded the sound effect over here in state load. Let's just check that out real quick. Wonderful.